In August and September of 2025, Mary and I did a 40-day road trip where we covered over 12,000 miles and passed through 20 states and one Canadian province. Along the way, we were able to visit with 3 relatives and 4 friends. We stopped at 10 national parks, 4 national monuments, 7 historic sites, 2 recreational areas, and 1 lakeshore under the National Park Service. By traveling to Nebraska, Oregon, and Washington State, I have now been to all 50 states. The maps which follow show the routes we took. This first map shows the route for the first 6 days, where we went from our home in Massachusetts to our stay in Torrington, Wyoming, traveling 2,050 miles. Along the way, we hiked to Rosecrans Falls in north central Pennsylvania. In Ohio, we spent a day visiting good friends Greg and Tish Dalby. After passing through Indiana and Illinois, we crossed the Mississippi River to Iowa, where we toured the Herbert Hoover National Historic Site and the Amana colonies. We proceeded into Nebraska with a stop at Homestead National Historic Park, ate our first runzas, and then telephoned high school classmate Anita. In western Nebraska, we saw the Oregon Trail landmarks Courthouse and Jail Rocks, Chimney Rock, and Scotts Bluff National Monument. We finished Nebraska with a visit to Agate Fossil Beds National Monument before bedding down in Torrington, Wyoming. The next map covers our travels on days 7 through 10, which covered 1,100 miles of driving. We started in Wyoming with a tour of Fort Laramie National Historic Site, and then made stops at Oregon Trail Historic Sites, Register Cliff, and Oregon Trail Ruts State Historic Sites. We followed this with Flaming Gorge National Recreation Area in Wyoming and Utah, and back into Wyoming for Fossil Butte National Monument before spending the night in Evanston, Wyoming. We crossed into Utah to see the Bonneville Salt Flats, then headed to Great Basin National Park in eastern Nevada. The third map covers days 11 through 16, which covered 970 miles. After a day in Great Basin National Park, we had to travel to a hospital in Ely, Nevada for Mary's injury. We then traveled back to our hotel to pack and head to the hospital in Reno via the loneliest highway in America, Route 50. We stayed in Carson City, Nevada with day trips to Lake Tahoe before staying at Tahoe proper. We then headed to Lassen Volcanic National Park, stayed in Weed, California in the shadow of Mount Shasta, and followed with a trip to Lava Beds National Monument. This next map covers days 16 through 22, driving 1,100 miles. From Lava Beds National Monument, we headed to Crater Lake National Park. We next made a stop in Crescent City, California to visit with Mary's cousin Kathy before continuing to Redwood National and State Parks. We then crossed into Oregon to see the dramatic coastline before visiting with my cousin Tina in Depot Bay, Oregon. We then traveled to Newberry National Volcanic Monument, viewed the waterfalls in Columbia River Gorge National Scenic Area, and headed to Mount St. Helens National Volcanic Monument after doing laundry in Portland. Map 5 covers days 22 through 28, covering 850 miles. From Mount St. Helens National Volcanic Monument, we drove to Mount Rainier National Park, followed by Olympic National Park, before traveling to Seattle. There we visited with high school friend Art Nunes and his wife Brenda and Art's mom Rachel. Art was gracious to act as our tour guide to the Seattle area. We then visited with my niece Lisa and her husband Jeremy and their dog Emmett. Map 6 entails days 28 through 31 and covers 650 miles. We made the trip from Seattle to North Cascades National Park. We stopped at Grand Coulee Dam, crossed the Idaho Panhandle into Montana, and made our way to Glacier National Park. Map 7 is day 32, traversing the Going to the Sun Road in Glacier National Park, crossing into Alberta, Canada, and arriving at Waterton Lakes National Park. The final map chronicles our journey home from Waterton Lakes National Park. It covers days 33 through 40. On this portion of the trip, we crossed back into the United States from Alberta, Canada, traveling through the Big Sky state of Montana. We crossed into North Dakota, making stops at the Fort Union Trading Post National Historic Site and the North Unit of Theodore Roosevelt National Park. We crossed North Dakota and Minnesota into Wisconsin for a stop at Apostle Islands National Lakeshore. We made a stop to visit my work colleague Don Bennett in southern Wisconsin and then made our way through Illinois into Indiana, where we made our final stop at Indiana Dunes National Park before heading home through Ohio, Pennsylvania, New York, and Connecticut. Mary and I thank you for watching this introduction to our epic road trip to the Pacific Northwest. We hope you'll join us for the ensuing videos, where we give a deeper dive into the fantastic voyage we have just completed.